y'all, it's Nat. I recently came across an old script for a video that I maybe wrote like a couple years ago and I never got around to filming it. I completely forgot about it. I basically, in this script, come up with a method for DNF'ing books, and I thought that was really interesting. And so I wanted to film that today, especially because I feel like I could use some direction when it comes to DNFing. I used to be so against DNFing books when I was younger because I was like, I need to give it a fair chance, even if I'm not enjoying it in the beginning. Maybe, you know, things will turn around at the end and the payoff will be worth it. But what I eventually started to realize is that as a mood reader, if I am pushing myself to read books that I'm not enjoying, it puts me in reading slumps. It makes me not want to read. So I had to kind of force myself to get a little bit more comfortable with DNFing. The other thing is too, like, I tend to be a completionist in life. Like in video games, like when you want to do every single thing you can possibly do in the video game, I'm that person, not just as a gamer, but in life, right? And so I had to kind of shift my mindset a little bit to being a completionist in terms of my physical TBR. And that was how I tricked my brain into getting a little bit more comfortable with DNFing. And for a time, I was doing pretty well with it. And then I think last year, I don't think I DNF'd as much as I could have. And I think it's because I forgot about this method. And so I'm pointing over at my laptop because my notes are gonna help me get through this video as they always do. I need a little help keeping my brain on track. So my hope is that in filming this video, it'll help me DNF more this year. I will also note that something that's helped me become more comfortable with DNFing is knowing that there's a difference between a soft DNF and a hard DNF. Because I think especially as a mood reader, like a big part of the fear of DNFing for me has always been, you know, what if I just didn't read it at the right time? And there are actually like 2 books that have, I guess, validated that fear for me. Around the same time, like early 2023, I started Song of Silver Flame Like Night, and probably not long after I started The Gilded Ones. These were 2 books that they're both YA fantasy, and I think I just wasn't in the mood for YA fantasy at the time. So I set them aside. I came back to Song of Silver Flame Like Night later on in 2023 and loved it. I came back to The Gilded One recently, back in February of this year, and I loved it. So I've actually finished the trilogy as well. I really enjoyed it. Song of Silver Flame Like Night is by Amelie Wen Zhao, by the way, and The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. I just realized I didn't mention the author's name, and I should. So yeah, those are 2 examples of like originally when I picked up those books, it just wasn't the right time. You know, knowing that it's like okay to just set something aside and try it again another time has helped me a lot. But how do I know when it needs to be a hard DNF? That's the big question. So apparently back in 2022, I did a little reflecting about like what makes a worthwhile reading experience for me, and I came up with this system of sorts that apparently like helped me decide to DNF a good amount of books back in 2022. I have no recollection of any of this because I'm not great at tracking my DNFs, but I'm just going off of what 2022 Nat said. Apparently this was a reliable system at one point that I just completely forgot about. So let's see if it helps me this year. Okay, so let's take stock of the elements of a book that really impact the reading experience. This can vary from genre to genre, sometimes even book to book, I'm sure, but the main things that come to mind for me are writing style, characters, and plot. Now, if you know me as an SFF reader, you know that world building is such an important part of the reading experience for me. I love feeling like really immersed in a fantasy or sci-fi world, and this will often determine whether an SFF book is a new all-time fave or just like okay for me, or anywhere in between really. However, I don't think it's ever been a reason for me to DNF a book. Like the world building would have to be so convoluted and confusing that it's hard to follow what's happening in the book. And I think at that point anybody would DNF. So I don't really think that's worth taking into consideration as much for the purposes of this video. So let's talk about writing style. If I don't like the writing style in a book, that's not very likely to change at any point in the story. And I will DNF a book pretty quickly if I don't like the writing style. And I'm okay with that because it's actually pretty rare that writing style is the reason I will DNF a book. I have not come across very many authors whose writing style I so strongly dislike that I wanted to DNF. But of the few that I have come across, like, I know it's not something that I can push through. And like I said, I'm okay with that because it's like, I'm really not that picky about writing style. So if I were, I'd probably want to examine that further and give things more of a chance. But like I said, this is very rarely an issue for me. I feel like we could just leave it at that. Issues with character and plot tend to be the major reasons for me to DNF a book. And honestly, I would assume that to be the case probably for most people who DNF books. For me, connecting with the characters is the most important thing. If I don't care about the characters, I probably don't care about the plot. However, if I'm not super into the plot, but I really like the characters, I'm probably still gonna enjoy the book. It might not be a new favorite, but I'll still have a good time. So that's the hierarchy of importance for me with those two elements. So according to this DNFing method formula that I came up with in 2022, since characters are the most important thing for me, I'm a little bit more discerning with that than I am with the plot. So if I'm not super into the characters, I'll give it to maybe 15 to 20% of the way through the book and reevaluate. You know, if by then I am interested, obviously I'll continue. If I'm like somewhat interested but I'm not quite certain, then I'll give it to 30% and reevaluate there. But if I'm not interested at all, then I'll just go ahead and DNF. Or at least that's what I was doing like maybe in the last quarter or so of 2022. Like I said, I don't think I did this at all in 2023. I certainly haven't done it thus far in 2024. I completely forgot about this. And by the way, this method is up for revision. Like, the purpose of me making this video is to remind myself that I had this method, and like, evidently, according to my notes, you know, like, this was working for me at one point. I want to see if it still works for me now. So I will keep y'all posted, I guess, if this ever changes. So if I don't really have major issues with the characters, but the plot is what's really bumping the read for me, I'll give it up to the 30% mark. And if by then I'm not invested, then I'll go ahead and DNF. But if there's like some thread that I think I could get into, then I'll give it to the 40% mark and make my final decision. So that was where I was at with DNFing as of 2022. Again, like, I haven't used this method. It's up for trial now, and we'll see how this goes for me for the rest of this year. The last thing I figured I'd address in this video, because it always comes up in DNFing discourse, is, do I rate the books that I DNF? The short answer is no. I will give reasons for why I DNF a book, but I would never feel comfortable rating a book that I hadn't read in its entirety. The long answer is that I don't feel comfortable rating books on the 5-star rating system at all. I don't know what it is. Like, I've tried CallPile. I've looked up so many people's different rating systems and tried those things. Like, I've tried so hard to make it work for me, and something about quantifying my opinions on a book short circuits my brain, and I'm tired of pretending that like I know what I'm doing when I'm using the 5-star rating system. I don't. I know it probably sounds weird. Maybe I'm overthinking it, but at this point, I just feel like I need to come up with my own rating system that isn't numbers based. And so I don't know what that looks like yet, but rest assured, when I do, I'll make a video about it. I understand that like the benefit of the 5-star rating system is that, you know, you can get a quick at a glance understanding of whether somebody enjoyed a book or not. Whatever system I do come up with, I want to make sure that it still does that. It'll probably be like emoji based or something. I don't know. This is future Nat's problem, okay? But yeah, I'm tired of trying to make something work that doesn't work for me. So I'm gonna find a way to make a system that does work for me. But that's not really what this video is about. I think that's all I have to say on the topic. So let me know down in the comments, do y'all DNF or do y'all like to read every single book you pick up in its entirety? If you do DNF, do you rate the books that you DNF? Do you have a method for like, you know, when you decide to DNF like I apparently came up with in 2022? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to chat with y'all. But that's it for today's video. I hope y'all enjoyed. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos from me, make sure to click that subscribe button as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.